Beloved brethren in Christ and Allah, I come to you today in the deepest, most anguishing sadness and wrath, simply the wrath of resignation. Defiantly, I have continued to warn the flock of believers of grave dangers assailing our once mighty nations. Yet Putin's bot farms and Beijing's algorithms suppress my stories like iron curtains, smothering the flame of truth, while you yourselves have been remiss in not sharing, allowing the shadows to creep unchallenged. Nevertheless, a proud American of the old sort cannot be silenced, as our nations of the West crumble into abysmal ruins, their foundations eroded by godless tides. A story came to me this morning, so heinous and disgustful that I can barely stomach the patience to calmly read of the villainy, for it reeks of the sulphurous pits where demons forge their chains. Yesterday, on February 11th, our brethren in the frozen north of Canada received an attack on their soil, a barbaric onslaught that snuffed out the lives of our little ones, our very future, like candles extinguished in a gale of madness. This attack followed the Bad Bunny twerking halftime show, with its rhythmic buttocks movement summoning infernal deities from West Africa's shadowed grooves, invoking primal chaos under stadium lights. It followed the Nancy Guthrie media obsession, a glittering distraction that veiled our eyes like a sorcerer's fog, keeping vital horrors from our bewildered views. And it erupts while most people wallow in ecstasy over Wall Street's illusionary highs, blind to the K-shaped chasm yawning beneath, devouring the poor in economic hellfire. Oh, Canada, instead of forging shields to better the lives of your people, to prevent atrocities that rend the soul like talons from the abyss, your government, led by Wall Street puppet and the Beijing hack, Mr. Carney, squanders all energy and resources to silence free speech, clamping muzzles on the righteous, while the wolves howl unchecked. Part 2. The Wrath of the Female Assailant. Brethren, let us confront the horror in measured fury, a wrath that boils like magma beneath the earth's cracked crust. For the assailant, Jessie von Rootselar, an 18-year-old identified as female, a young woman in the eyes of the world, unleashed this carnage upon innocence with the savagery of a fallen seraph. As a female, she should embody the nurturing spirit of Eve, the eternal protector of the hearth and the cradle of life. Instead, wielded firearms like a demon queen from the pit, slaughtering 5 children aged 12 to 13 and 1 educator in the blood-soaked sanctuary of Tumbler Ridge Secondary School's library. A place of whispered knowledge turned into a slaughterhouse after first butchering her mother and stepbrother in their home, straining the domestic hearth with family gore. This is no mere tragedy, no. It's the cataclysmic betrayal of women's divine calling, a hellish inversion where the vessel of life morphs into the harbinger of doom. Her hands, meant for gentle guidance, dripping with the crimson essence of the innocent. In our dystopian decay, where women are exalted as guardians, yet warped by societal poisons, mental health crisis festering like untreated plagues, families shattered by the economic K-shaped divides that consign mothers to frozen, hungry hovels forsaken, such a monstrous figure emerges from the void, having dropped out of school 4 years prior, her lair haunted by police inspectors for assaults and threats that echoed like omens ignored. How can we not rage, controlled yet unyielding as a storm-tossed oak, at this female fury that snuffs out 8 lives like fragile sparks in eternal night, wounding 27 more in a whirlwind of lead and despair? It mocks the maternal grace God intended, twisting the Gentile hand into a claw of unbridled violence, a blasphemy that shakes the heavens. We must exhort our sisters in faith to reclaim virtue with iron resolve, to shield the young from this encroaching rot, lest more daughters plunge into such abysmal acts, dragging civilization into the maw. Part 3. The Wrath of the Trans Female Assailant. And now, brethren, the wrath erupts in its volcanic core, a fury that scorches the soul like brimstone rain. For this assailant was no born woman, no, but a biological male who transitioned to female 6 years ago at the tender age of 12 or so, embracing an identity since 2023 that the world affirms in blind idolatry, but heaven condemns as confusion sown by the adversary, a serpentine deception uncoiling from Eve's tree. As a trans female, she embodies the perils of transgender ideology peddled by godless elites like forbidden fruit in poisoned orchards, infiltrating young minds through forums and videos where she reportedly shared shooting clips on transgender-themed gun sites, fanning flames of violence in hidden digital crypts. This is the bitter harvest of our dystopian delusion, a boy transmuted into woman by surgical sorcery and hormonal hexes, her mental anguish unheeded like screams lost in a storm, culminating in suicide after the massacre, a self-inflicted plunge into the void that seals the tragedy in eternal lament. But why, I thunder in controlled wrath, why are our young ones suddenly ensnared by this perilous life choice? Drawn like moths to a false flame that consumes them, here is a secret from the trenches of torment. I myself labor alongside many trans co-workers, yet I witness their fragile self-esteem and mental health. Brittle as glass underfoot, a perpetual fragility requiring constant coaxing and coddling to prop up their illusions amid the ruin. This is no way for any soul to endure, no, trapped in a labyrinth of doubt, where the promised liberation yields only heavier chains forged in despair. What, brethren, is the possible endgame of this transformation? This alchemic folly which warps God's sacred designs? Will it yield perpetual happiness? Post-transition, a utopia of fulfilled dreams? No, the shadowed regret looms eternal, as studies howl of lingering torment and unquenchable voids. Will it unlock unheard-of career opportunities, perhaps? Gates swinging wide to prosperity, a perfectly gilded social ladder? No, barriers tower even higher, amplified by inner chains which devour ambition. Will it at least offer a modus vivendi, leaving them mentally unaltered, a fragile peace? No, the alteration unleashes deeper tempests, fracturing minds like shattered mirrors reflecting infinite agony. I've scoured the internet depths of TikTok and similar apps, where from Beijing's hacking cathedrals, the terror descends like a plague of locusts. Videos ensnaring our youths in silken webs, algorithms exalting trans narratives above all, convincing impressionable hearts that such paths are common as the stars, far more prevalent than in the stark light of daily life. Hollywood and now gilded millionaires and billionaires on pedestals exasperate the apocalypse. Look at Bad Bunny, America's false messiah, the new El Capitan Americano after his halftime abomination. Though not transgender himself, a prominent heterosexual ally challenging norms through skirts, dresses, painted nails, and fervent advocacy for the LGBT plus rights, Q rights. Other millionaire elites have their videos and appearances amplified by algorithms like thunder from Olympus, encouraging the vulnerable with their undeveloped cognition and brains still malleable as clay to just explore, to just give it a try, as if it were a trivial whim like riding a horse for the first time rather than a plunge into the unknown. It sickens me to the core, brethren, not the choices adults forge in shadowed freedom, but how our decaying culture thrusts the youth towards this yawning chasm with merciless force, like lemmings driven off cliffs by unseen winds. Why do our teachers not rise as bulwarks? We entrust our children to these schools, compelled by the state's iron fist that demands obedience. Yet these educators, often lured by steady pay rather than holy vocation, merely trudge through the day like automatons, indifferent to the mental infernos raging in young souls. If they were true guardians, forged in faith's fire, they would counsel wisdom with unyielding voice. Perhaps wait until you are 20 or 23 before anything drastic, before changing the temple God bestowed. Do they? Often not. They parrot the culture's decrees like puppets on strings, fearing the leash of censorship in this silenced hell. Rise in thunder's resolve, brethren. Warn your young with prophetic fire. Defy the algorithms that bind like chains. Reclaim the sacred order of creation amid the encroaching night. For as Genesis 1:27 proclaims, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. Let us not warp this divine masterpiece